music.
I don't hear the music, Cal. FYI.
Bum, 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 bum. There it is. There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the DNVR Nuggets podcast Thursday edition, aka Serbian Christmas Eve edition. We're going to be doing a lot of great stuff today. Got notebook notes from yesterday's game. It was a bummer not to get to share some notes. Went back and rewatched the game this morning. Got lots of notes. I'm going to actually do an old school version of the list today. So rather, because we always get flagged whenever we share videos on the list live. Instead, I'll talk about them. I'll do an old school style notebook episode, and then I'll post the clips up on thednvr.com for members only. And to help me with that, I got Harrison Wind in the house. He hiding his beautiful hair behind a hat, though.
Happy Serbian Christmas Eve to you, Adam. I'm celebrating Serbian Christmas Eve by going to my first Avs game of the season tonight. I will be in the house. Avs versus Winnipeg Jets. I'll be there.
Yeah, the Avs are the bright, shining star of the city of Denver at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Let's go. I'm hyped.
In segment 2, Harrison and I are gonna break down the All-Star votes. There's some interesting All-Star votes. Talk about Jokic's surprise number 2 in the standings in the West, and then also clean up some odds and ends. And then finally, in segment 3, we're gonna welcome on Vojislav and Miroslav. You guys know them. They are the hosts of the Nugget Serbia podcast, and they got some cool stuff to talk about in that final segment. First, Harrison, and by the way, people don't know, they announced this yesterday. I put it in the chat. I tested positive for COVID, no symptoms, but went and got tested, and I'm positive, so I'm in the room. It almost looks like a mug shot, doesn't it? Me and against the blank wall.
So at Ball Arena, there's a room right across from the Nuggets locker room, and there's just a sign on it that says isolation room. And I don't know what goes on in that room. I don't know what it looks like in that room, but I imagine it has a wall very similar to your background right now.
It probably is. It is weird, like I went and got tested, and when you get positive, I'm like, well, I guess I'll just walk up to my bedroom and lock myself in here, and that's where I've been now for 24 hours. I'll be here for another 4 or 5 days. It's a bummer, but
brutal.
As I feel like it's important. I don't know how you feel, Harrison. This is actually my second time. I'm on the MPJ plan, just getting the punch card here.
No, you're not quite there, but yeah, you're approaching. Yeah.
I got it once back pre-vax, real early on in the pandemic era. I got it once. And it's funny because at that time we had it was shameful to share if you got it. People were like, right. You got Harrison, what's wrong with you, man? Do you not know there's a pandemic? Man, now here we are, 1/3 of the world has gotten this virus. I think with this new one, it's almost, certain. But I wanted to, the reason I bring it up, a lot of people aren't even sharing. I kind of feel it's important to share the experience. We're all lying to each other about the experience here. I am obviously vaxxed and boosted, and I got my boost 6-7 weeks ago. And I think that for the fact that I have it here and I don't really have anything, any symptoms. I got a mild cough. I might cough 3 or 4 times throughout this hour, but I'm very thankful that I'm one of the lucky ones without symptoms and also, got boosted early.
Yeah, well, good for you, because it seems like that's the trend. If you're vaxxed and boosted, you'll feel all right. And look, we talked to a lot of NBA guys who have had COVID, and look, these guys are the peak athlete. They're probably in a little better shape than you, Adam. They probably just keep their body in a little better shape, just a little bit. Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't told you this, Harrison, but new year, new me, new diet going on. Already 7 pounds down, baby.
7 pounds, better than a pound a day. I'm liking that trajectory.
Half of it is, I'm in COVID for half of this, so it's tough to diet and have COVID at the same time. But
yeah,
you know what?
But a lot of NBA guys are vaxxed and boosted, and they don't, from what we're hearing and what they're telling us, have had a ton of symptoms. So that seems like the best track to be on.
And I know people that have vaxxed but not boosted, and you kind of compare. I know it's anecdotal, but you kind of it helps to have these little point of references. And I know people obviously not vaxxed, and you do see the whole range of outcomes. So I'm not telling anybody what to do, but my experience is vaxxed and boosted. I've got it. I tested positive, and I would say I'm a 9 out of 10 on the health scale right now. So knock on wood. Hopefully it keeps going. That out of the way. So, this game yesterday, I'm watching the show, the instant reaction. Did you go back and watch it last night or this morning, by the way, Harrison?
No, I did not rewatch last night's game. I'm sorry I didn't do my homework.
It's so true. I feel like I've rewatched fewer games over the last 2 weeks than usually in a season. I rewatch every single game or maybe save for 4 or 5 total. Over this last 2-week stretch, like the Houston game, I didn't go back and rewatch that one. It was a 30-point win against a terrible team and Denver missing half their guys.
Yeah.
Like, how much can you pull from it? But I did enjoy going back and watching this one, even though it was so weird. I do feel like you can get some important details out of them. And I kind of wanted to go through line by line. This is an old school style, notebook style. Like I said, a lot of the things I'm going to talk about will pop up on the list a little bit later on. But you know me, Harrison, my number one thing I'm talking about right now, actually, if there's number one thing I'm going to talk about, it's shot selection. But I'm going to get to that here in a little bit. The difficulty Denver is having right now, as teams are getting smarter about what the Nuggets are weak at just because of their roster construction, the health and all of this. I feel like when you put guys when you put guys in Facu, Rivers, Barton, especially this version of Barton, which has been really bad lately. And I mean, it can be really frustrating. He's one of the more frustrating players right now, in large part because you expect more out of him. But as you go back and watch it, you see how much teams are really taking advantage of the fact that they're not worried about those guys spacing the court and can really help off. The very first play of this game, or one of the first plays, I don't remember his first or second or third, but Facu enters the ball to Jokic in the post. Denver does this a lot. They give it to Jokic in the post because they're like, all right, let's see how they're guarding us. They jump down, they dive down to double the ball inside on Jokic right away. It's Facu. So Facu dives like a cut, but Facu as a three-point shooter, if he's wide open, he's actually very reliable, one of the more guys, but he has a slow shot, low release, so it's easy to close out on him. But when he's cutting, teams just know they don't have to oh no, here comes Facu on a cut down the lane. He's right. He just can't fit it. You could be 5, 6, 7 feet away from him, and by the time he catches and goes up, you can go over and challenge it. And even in the second half, there was an example of Jokic hitting Facu on a great dive, and he missed the layup even without, somebody kind of lightly challenged it, and he missed the layup anyway because he always has to rush his shot. So that's one of my things is when you start to talk about all the things that have to go right in those lineup combinations, it's really hard. Facu enters the ball, but now he's not a threat to space or to cut, and that just makes things really easy. So then he cuts on that play. They double Jokic. He doesn't have a move. He kicks it out to a wide open Austin Rivers. Well, Austin Rivers is shooting 25% on open three-pointers right now, catch and shoot threes. So it's just teams are able. It's so hard for Denver to punish teams that teams are deciding double Jokic hard, just don't let him score, and then trust that you can close out on the weak side without a threat to drive, without a threat to cut, and without a threat to punish you with a quick trigger three-pointer.
Yeah. The Facu stuff has been tough because ever since I wrote about how he's been playing really, really well for the Nuggets, he's been awful. That was 2 games ago. But yeah, his 3-point shots fallen off a bit. And even when he was really shooting it well from 3, nobody's respecting Facu Campazzo's 3-point shot. Nobody's guarding him as a shooter. And then, like you were saying, his inability to be a threat cutting to the rim. I'm just looking up, where most of his shots come from right now. 20% of his shots come, at the rim, which is a very small amount for a guard. It's a very low amount. He's really only a 3-point shooter on the offensive end in terms of scoring the ball. And, when he does get to the rim, he's shooting 55% there, which again is very, very low for a guard. So, just their personnel right now, it's really limiting just the options they've got on the offensive end, it feels like.
And I know Argentina's getting their pitchforks. They're ready to come for me right now. This is not a Facu is the problem. It is a collection. Facu is. It's funny when I talked to George Carl, I think I brought this up once before, but he said, when I asked him about Facu, he says, I love him. I think he's a great player, and I would play him most games. Not all games. There's some games I just would not play him at all and not match him up. And right now, Denver's so shorthanded, of course he has to play against everyone.
Sure, of course.
That's not a matter of should he or shouldn't he play. But I think it's more a matter of how conscious you have to be right now about who you play him with. And look, Denver's so shorthanded that you're going to have to play lineups right now that are just not good, that are very risky. But Jokic is the most important player on the team. And I think the Jokic minutes are the ones you have to really emphasize. Are we giving him the best opportunity to go on runs, especially against a team like Utah that was also shorthanded, especially in their front court? And I just felt like Denver wasn't able to take it. I mean, Jokic was a -1 yesterday, and he was guarded by Rudy Gay for half the time, and he was guarded by Azubuike half the time. And it's just like you can't be a -1 in those minutes. And we'll get to why they were here in a little bit. So I wouldn't mind Facu playing with Jokic, just to give him a little bit more space and give him Will Barton at the 2, maybe give him Bones Highland. Just don't give him too many guys that are not going to shoot the ball very well. And maybe even look at Gordon, who's been really good. But maybe Gordon, you try to flex those minutes out to give a little bit more shooting at the 4.
Well, it's going to be interesting because Facu's probably moving back to the bench starting tomorrow. Monte's most likely going to move into the starting lineup. So that's just going to naturally cut down on the time he spends on the floor with Jokic.
No doubt about it. Austin Rivers, I highlighted this in a list episode. I think the last one or the one before that. He's a really good defender. And it's funny, Austin Rivers and Jokic, the two-man pair, I didn't look at the numbers last night, but I looked at them a week ago or so. They have an offensive rating of 106, which is really bad for a Jokic lineup. Like Jokic two-man lineups almost always are 110, 115. His 106, but the defensive rating is so high. So I think Denver knows, like pairing Austin Rivers, or so low, I should say. Denver knows pairing Austin Rivers with Jokic hasn't worked on offense, but it's still been a net positive, maybe lower so than most two-man lineups. But they still look at it and say, okay, when he's out there, it's going to be a grind. And I think as a fan and even as an analyst, it's important to separate, is this lineup frustrating and annoying versus is this lineup getting killed? Those lineups with him are really annoying and boring and like frustrating, but they're actually not getting murdered in those minutes. It really is, to me, the trio and how you build off of it. But the thing about Austin is, so if we say offensively he hasn't been good, defensively he has to be on point. He has to be locked in. And defensively over the last 5, 6, 7 games, there have just been these possessions where he's completely dropped the ball. One of the first plays of the game, Harrison, you get a side pick and roll with an empty corner, meaning there's no help. All of the players are on one side of the court, and you're running a 1-5 pick and roll. Austin Rivers is guarding Mike Conley. And defense, when you have an empty corner like that on a side pick and roll, this will be on the list, by the way, so you can visualize it, but I'll try to explain it. When you have a side pick and roll, defense has to ice that screen, meaning keep them on one side. If you're on the left wing, you have the left sideline and the baseline to help you sort of trap the ball if you can force them away from the middle of the court. Austin Rivers knows this. Denver's defensive scheme. It's every team in the NBA's defensive scheme, by the way, in these specific moments. Yeah. And Austin Rivers jumps like he's going to ice it. But then for some reason, he jumps out of position. Mike Conley uses the screen, empty corner, wide open alley-oop. It's like the easiest pick and roll lob Mike Conley will ever have. And it was all a result, for some reason, of Austin Rivers just not following the most basic of defensive assignments.
Yeah, that's surprising because one thing that you think that Austin Rivers would bring is experience, and he's been around the league forever. Right. And he's a coach's son, which is something that I've actually, heard that the Nuggets have liked about him, how receptive he is to coaching and how, quick he is to implement stuff that the coaches talk to him about. But yeah, just basic stuff like that. It's weird because you don't expect it to be from him. Right. The stuff that I've seen from Austin Rivers that's been frustrating, and there's been a couple of these that's happened over the last couple weeks. His effort competing for defensive rebounds.
Yeah.
I put this one in the Slack, but there was a play where I forget who it was. It might have been Rudy Gay or one of Utah's front court guys just had 3 attempts right in the restricted area, and Austin Rivers just standing under the rim, just watching. Yeah. And it's like, dude, get in the play. So it's just stuff like that.
And the thing is, so unlike a guy like Will Barton or even a Bones Highland, even though he's a rookie, the difference is those guys are offensive players first and then defensive players second. That doesn't let anybody off the hook. But what I'm saying is Austin Rivers has not been a value-add offensive player, especially with Jokic. It's a little bit of a weight when he's out there, and the numbers bear it out, a weight when he's on the court with Jokic, which means it's extra important for him to be dialed in defensively. So when he makes mistakes, it's not the same as when other players make mistakes. Now, I'm not trying to pin this all on him. I'm just going through my notes in order here, and it's a thing that has stood out, and it's going to be on the list. Some of these possessions where you think, you're an ace defender and you just lowered Denver's odds of getting a stop by 50% on that possession, or to your point, didn't go after the loose ball the way you're supposed to.
And look, Austin Rivers isn't supposed to be playing 25 minutes a game right now. Right. He was brought here to be like the fifth or sixth guard and really only play spot minutes here and there. But look, like Austin Rivers has been super candid about this stuff before. He's like, I think I can get back to the point I was earlier in my career where I was a starter, where I was looked at as like a nice building block for teams. He wants to get back to that point. And I'm like, dude, you got to still do the little stuff to get back to that point.
Yeah. And I don't want to bury the guy because like the team has so many problems. I'm just, like I said, this is the first note I'm getting into it here. And I see a quote here. Somebody Steph the One says, Rivers adds no value to this team in any way. Waive him. I don't think that's true. I actually think he does add value. And the thing is, this obviously didn't work out the way that it was. But if you gave me a lineup that was Jamal Murray, Austin Rivers, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Jokic, I would say, you know what? Austin Rivers we don't need his offense. Denver can score whether he's on the court or off. He could stay in the backcourt. And then defensively, he actually is a really good on-ball defender. So I think there's some things you could say would be good. It's just the game hasn't worked out that way. And even now, if you get Denver actually made a run with Monte and Rivers at one point in this game. And again, just the more spacing, Monte, Rivers, Barton, I think. So the more you can give him just a couple guys sandwiching him that can shoot, handle, get to the rim, play off of Jokic, the better I think he is. But when you compound the Facu, Rivers, and Barton not making shots, not taking good shots, then it really just shoots you in the foot. The Jazz did a great job in this game, and they're actually the best in the NBA at this specific thing. You're going to want to subscribe to the list for this very thing because I think it's so cool, and I think it's a thing that NBA teams are going to be doing more and more of. They fake switch. So when you because Denver's so tough to guard when you have to switch. They are very good at, if you run, let's say, an Aaron Gordon, Facu, Campazzo screen, most teams would love to just switch that, but Denver's too good. And as I put out on Twitter yesterday, Aaron Gordon is in the top 10 in the NBA in post-up efficiency this season, which is a shocker. Like, he's usually not that efficient, but he's been so good at exploiting switches. Well, the Jazz do this thing where they will fake switch it. So it looks like they switch it. And then as soon as a pass is made, they both switch back. It takes incredible defensive timing and chemistry, and they do a great job of it. And part of this is compounded by the fact you can't fake switch a Steph Curry pick and roll, because even that little tiny half second of opening where you have to switch back, Curry's going to get you. Or if you have a four on him, he's going to be too good at putting pressure on you so you can't switch back. But if it's Facu, they're like, hey, if you're going to take a semi-contested off-the-dribble pull-up three, have at it. So it's very easy, again, to switch back. But the Jazz did a great job of this all game, of not actually switching, but stepping out just long enough that Denver couldn't turn the corner on a pick and roll.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by just Utah's coaching and game plan last night. Quinn Snyder's an amazing coach. I mean, we know that.
He's one of the better ones in the NBA. I think he might be a top 5. I think he's probably a top 5 coach in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. For him to come up with a game plan last night without Rudy Gobert that, limited Denver, and, Jokic had 26 last night. If you looked at the Jazz roster, no Rudy Gobert, no Hassan Whiteside, you probably would think he would have had more. So the Jazz played a great game.
And by the way, Utah bringing in Rudy Gay this year was a deliberate move. Now, I don't think they think they're going to beat the Nuggets very often when they don't have Rudy Gobert. But the Jazz, like the Nuggets, have evolved over the last few years where you go into a playoffs, you say, what's not working? We need to have an option to do this. And one of their options was Rudy Gay playing the 5. Now, last night, Denver should have dominated. It's going to be my main talking point. Denver should have dominated those minutes, and they did not. But it's not a coincidence. Like, Utah wanted that game last night without Rudy Gobert. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Gobert's like, I can go. And they're like, no, we want to practice this because it's going to be a big part of – we're never going to play 48 minutes this way, but we want practice doing this because we might need to play 8 minutes this way in a playoff series against Anthony Davis or against Jokic or against one of these bigs. And so last night was in my opinion, an important game for the Utah Jazz to kind of get that practice. And they did great, in large part because the Nuggets let them off the hook. Let's take our break. On the other side, though, I'm going to get into how Denver left them off the hook, as well as a handful of other notes.
Sexy Pizza. If you come out to the DNVR Broncos tailgate, the DNVR tailgate this Saturday at Mile High, we're going to have Sexy Pizza there. They've got a bunch of locations throughout Denver. They've got one in the Highlands. They've got one on South Pearl. Hit them up. Go pick up pizza there. Order it for delivery from January 8th through January 12th. So this is coming up here in a couple days. DNVR listeners, you guys can get 20% off with the code SEXY DNVR, all one word, SEXY DNVR. So call up Sexy Pizza, stop into one of their locations. www.sexy.pizza is their website. Use promo code SEXYPIZZA. That's available this coming Saturday through Wednesday. You're going to get 20% off your order from Sexy Pizza. And like I said, we've got it at the tailgate this weekend. So if you're in town, stop in Saturday at Mile High. Get your fill of Sexy Pizza there too.
That's it.
I like draft.
Oh, you got another one. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've hit the final week of the pro football regular season. College football is heading to the national championship. DraftKings Sportsbook has an unbelievable offer to get all fans in on the action for this exciting time on the football calendar. New customers can bet just $5 on any football team to win their game. If they do, you win $200 in free bets. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get in on same game parlays. Get those in on NBA games as well. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR. Bet $5 on any football team. Just $5, college or pro. Win $200 in free bets if that team wins. Promo code DNVR this week at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
So back here on the DNVR Nuggets podcast. So don't forget, subscribe, guys, because all these things I'm talking about. How many clips do I have? Let me see. Oh my God, I've got 12 clips for the list today, so it'll be a pretty good one. So Austin Rivers did a really nice job in this game twice of attacking closeouts. And to me, if there was one thing I could wave a wand and force him to do, it would be to be better at attacking closeouts. And by the way, it's not just, he's the most egregious of this, because when he does the shot, fake, jab, step, shot, fake, jab, it kills the flow. That is what makes Jokic so special, when you can make quick moves and get the ball back to him. So it kills that. But he did a good job last night of attacking. He had one great, got all the way to the rim. He had another one, I think, drew a foul. And I think the Nuggets as a team, I think, could emphasize this. Like, their offensive coordinator, to me, so much is always thought of as X's and O's. Sometimes it's about, like, what little traits can you say, hey, up the frequency of this? And one of those is attacking closeouts. The Spurs, I've talked about this before, but the Spurs traditionally are the best in the NBA at catching. Like, if you're open, obviously you're going to try to shoot it. But if you're not open enough and maybe you don't have the swing isn't going to get you anything, attack the closeout, one dribble, and then kick. And the Nuggets had a couple of nice examples of this. Austin Rivers in particular stood out because he's really bad at that. Jokic passes to the corner. I tweeted this one out, so that was a freebie. But those passes to the corner, when Jokic gets a screen in transition, he's bringing the ball up. You set up screen, so he's the point guard, and somebody rolls, usually Aaron Gordon or Jeff Green. When you get that, Jokic is the best in the league at throwing that no look to the corner. He does like 3 a game where he throws that one, and it's always so fun to watch. If only Denver will start knocking those down a little bit better. Now, Harrison, we get to the part that I really want to talk. This is the important thing. Would you guess who had the highest offensive rating on the Utah Jazz last night?
I want to say Rudy Gay, to be honest. He was so good.
It was Rudy Gay. Of course it was, because when you go small and you put a guy who is 210 pounds on Nikola Jokic, who's 280 pounds, you should get murdered on one end of the court. The only way you can make it viable is if you punish the team on the other end of the court. So what do you sacrifice? So what do you gain when you play small like that? You gain spacing, 3-point shooting. What do you give up? Points in the paint, offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding. What happened was Denver let them off the hook during those minutes. Denver, if this was a playoff series, I don't think would last more than one game doing this before it's like, hey, you keep taking some of the shots that you took in this one, and you're going to be just completely out of the rotation. Yep. But I want to get to some of these here. Oh, man, I'm going to have to screen share. I didn't realize I was going to have to screen share this way. Hold on one second, everybody. I got to go entire screen. Can you see me over here?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, so let me see what the order was here. Oh, yes. Davon Reed was the first awful shot. I posted this one on online. So here we have Rudy Gay guarding Jokic. This is one of the first plays in the entire game where Rudy Gay checks in. He's going to guard Jokic. So naturally, you're going to post Jokic up, right? Davon Reed, for some reason, this is a dribble handoff. He's kind of open, but he's open by design. Bojan Bogdanovic is like, take that shot, I dare you. Please take that shot. No rebounders. 14 seconds on the shot clock. Jokic has, he loves to play from this elbow. He's got Rudy Gay, and Davon Reed checks in and takes that. This is a frightening shot to me because Davon Reed's a 10-day guy, and the thing I like about him is he doesn't take these shots. One, even if you're wide open, this is the worst shot in basketball. It's the farthest you can be from the basket while still being a two-pointer. And two, there's no rebounders. And more importantly, this is a spiritual battle the Nuggets and Jazz are waging right now, a spiritual war between small ball and big ball. And when you punt that advantage, it's an absolute killer.
Yeah. That's wild that they didn't get the ball to Nikola Jokic right there. I mean, it should be so easy. Like, when the Jazz go small, it's your first option, your second option, your third option.
Right.
Like, find Jokic on those mismatches and boom. It's like right there in front of your eyes. Now, I think the fact that Denver's down so many assistant coaches right now and Michael Malone is a storyline that probably hasn't gotten enough play in these two losses. Like, that's a huge thing that's really hindered Denver. I mean, they're down to Popeye Jones, who's their, fourth assistant coach. Right. And then, a couple guys who are usually on the second row of their bench are their two lead assistants right now. But I still don't think that's an excuse for plays like this. Like, this should be simple basketball.
And it's just also a mind frame. And I'm going to talk about one big thing here. But again, this is the battle. The Utah Jazz, they brought in Rudy Gay so they can play these small ball lineups, these stretchy lineups in short stints. Last night, they were forced to play it a bunch of minutes, but they won a bunch of minutes. So it was like elite practice for a weapon that they're actually going to need. And Denver needs to be better prepared for it. Here's another one I have for you. So Denver was up 12-2. They come down, and I think Rudy Gay hits a three-pointer. So don't take advantage on one end. Jokic has to guard Rudy Gay in open space, pick and pop, and he knocks it down. 13 seconds on the shot clock. Barton takes this mid-range contested pull-up. Jokic is the highest guy back. Another example of a possession, no rebounding. This shot has an expected value somewhere around 1 point, meaning he's gonna shoot a little bit below 50%, and you have no chance of drawing a foul, no chance of getting an offensive rebound. You have nothing. So 2 plays in a row, you're up 12-10. You punt your advantage against the Rudy Gay at center lineup on a second consecutive play. They come down and make another three-pointer. A couple plays later, 19-14, Bones, fresh into the game, 19, he dribbles up into a contested three. That's the ball right there, by the way, if you can see this. That is the basketball. It was within an inch of being blocked. He misses it. There's no rebounders. And Jokic,
he hasn't even made it to the three-point line yet. He's like barely made it into the front court.
So you talk about, a spiritual battle between the Nuggets going big and the Jazz playing small. That was a 9-0 run because they came down the other end off after that play, and Donovan Mitchell hit a corner three. So I think it was 9-2, but nonetheless, a 9-2 run, and you're talking about, did you take advantage of what they were doing and make Rudy Gay get fouls? You get yourself into the bonus, you get offensive rebounds, you do all these things. No, you just let them off the hook with these shots, and they come down the other end. Did they do what their advantage is? Absolutely. 3 threes in 4 possessions, and you go on a 9-2 run. Harrison, a 9-2 run is a 7-point swing. The Nuggets lost by 6 points. By the way, there was a lot of little things, a lot of these little ruts that the team got into. But for whatever reason, the team was just not mentally prepared for the task at hand. They need to be mentally prepared for, hey, guys, they don't have any bigs. Rudy Gay's going to check in at some point. And when that happens, we always go through Jokic. 100% of the time, we try to get him. Jokic, when you're in the game, go down to the block. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to space the court. And Denver just wasn't prepared for that at all.
Yeah, Monte Morris talked about this last night, and he was saying, look, we don't have Michael Malone on the sideline, yelling at us, get the ball to Jokic, which is apparently a thing that happens.
Right.
I didn't know that Michael Malone was just on the sideline, like yelling that out to guys coming up the floor, but apparently he is. They don't have that right now. And like I said, I really feel like that's a reason that their offense it's looked out of sorts a little bit over these last 3 games, especially not as much against Houston, but the Rockets are terrible, but these last 2. But Monte also talked about, like, we're down all these coaches, we're down all these players. We've got to be smarter. Like, we've got to do the little things. We've got to, make the right play, the high IQ play. We've got to take advantage of mismatches. We've got to box out. We got to be first to loose balls. Like, those are the types of things they have to do, especially now because they're down so many guys. If they don't do those things, they're not going to win games.
I see it when somebody here says, of those, at least Reed was the Reed shot at least was open. Here's the thing. One, Davon Reed doesn't have a green light that Barton and Bones do. 2, it was a long 2, so it was a worse shot statistically. Like, Bones was a contested 3, but at least it was a 3. You have a little bit better odds at that one. And 3, most importantly, it was the very first play when Rudy Gay checked in. So it was a tone-setting play. This is where we talk about high IQ, but this is also just like the team, understanding, hey, here's that thing we talked about. It's go time. Here we go. And they just didn't execute that. But I'm telling you, the Utah Jazz did. They ran that pick and pop immediately. Rudy Gay comes in. It's like, okay, it's go time for us. We got to put Jokic in space. And they successfully did it. And here's the real thing I want to talk about on this one, Harrison. I've been thinking about this a lot. George Karl is big on Denver needs a point guard, a floor general. And I agree with him because I think floor generals, don't forget that. Like, floor generals know, hey, it's go time. Like, this is my job. But I think number 2, Denver needs a vocal leader. Maybe this is the same person. Like, Chris Paul is this person for Phoenix, right? He's both the point guard, but he's also the guy that if he's playing with Davon Reed and Davon Reed takes that shot in that moment, as soon as there's a dead ball, Chris Paul goes over and screams at him. And is like, what the hell is your problem? You're going to be taken off this team and sent back to the G League if you take one more shot like that. And I don't think Denver has that guy. Jokic, to be honest, his body language was terrible, and understandably so. Like, these shots to him, it's like, how could you possibly take this? But I do feel like Denver does not have a guy, and I'm not sure Jamal Murray's this guy either. Maybe he's growing into it, but I don't think Denver has a guy who has the clout and the willingness and ability to step up and say, Davon Reed, that's a terrible shot. Bones Highland, that's a terrible shot. Your ass better not do it again. Draymond Green does this. Like, people think Draymond Green's a crazy, even Chris Paul, they think he could be an a-hole teammate. He's not. He just knows you have to be like direct and emphatic in these moments to make sure everybody understands the mission at all times. And I just worry Denver lacks that, right? And when you watch games like this where it's not one possession, 2, it could be 6-minute stretches of that type of basketball. And I think Denver needs that guy as much as they need a skill set. They just need that guy that says, we don't do this.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that guy above anyone is Michael Malone. It's probably the closest you have to that. And that's definitely the type of stuff he's saying in timeouts and whatnot, and sometimes over the course of a game. But I feel like they have guys who, if they spoke up like that, they have Monte Morris has the clout within the Nuggets to be an asshole. Like, I think if Monte Morris was yelling at Davon Reed, I think that's something Davon Reed would definitely respect. Now, would Will Barton respect that? I don't know.
Well, somebody put it in there, and I don't want to bury on the guy, but Barton, I don't think can be that guy because Barton is as bad of an offender as anyone. Like, especially recently when he's healthy, I don't mind his aggressiveness, and not even healthy. Like, the last 20 games, he just has it. I don't know if it's health, fatigue, or maybe it's just him pressing too much and it not working. But whatever it is, I don't think he can be that guy because he would be yelling at himself. Lot.
It's like, look, do most teams have those guys though? Because you name two players, Chris Paul and Draymond Green, who are at the total end of the spectrum in terms of having the clout to call people out. I don't know how many guys, are around like that could be at that level,
It's the same as point guards, like the true point guard. When we went through the list, it was like 5 guys in the whole NBA, and most of them are like max salary type players. So you're right that there is not. But when we talk about basketball, so often people, especially over the last 7-8 years, people have talked about basketball in terms of statistics and this or that. But I'm telling you, even from the experience and level of basketball I played, those types of things, the leadership, and does this team have a guy that calls everybody out when they make mistakes, but does so, look, not most guys don't have this talent. You call somebody out and they're like, F you, dude. Like, come on, you don't have the charisma, the clout, whatever. But the guys that actually have the ability to do that sternly, but still be respected, that list of people is very, very low. And I just worry, Denver. Somebody said Jamal Murray's that guy. I'm a little doubtful. Jamal Murray is incredible. He's a great player. He brings a lot. I don't think I've seen that from him yet. Maybe he's developing
I haven't.
it. He is young. He's 23, 24. So maybe he's developing it. But I think the team desperately, desperately needs it from somebody. He would be a great candidate for it because I don't think it can come from Jokic. I don't know that he has it in him. For all the great things he obviously has. A couple quick little odds and ends, and then we'll talk about the All-Star break here, or the All-Star game. Jazz did a really good job. You're going to laugh at this, Harrison. I thought the Jazz did a great job of keeping Jokic off the glass. And you're going to laugh because he grabbed 21 rebounds. But if I were to ask you without looking, who had more offensive rebounds in this game, the Jazz or the Nuggets?
Oh, the Jazz.
The Jazz.
I mean, Jokic only had what? A couple offensive rebounds?
2 offensive rebounds. Yeah. The Nuggets as a team had 6. The Utah Jazz had 8. Royce O'Neal himself had 2. Rudy Gay, who's going Jokic, had 3.
It was Royce O'Neal on the Austin Rivers possession that I was talking about earlier, not Rudy Gay. So that was 2 of Royce O'Neal's offensive rebounds on that one play.
Right. So Rudy Gay versus Jokic, big versus small. Rudy Gay had 3 offensive rebounds. Jokic had 2. And you can't blame Jokic. He had 21 rebounds. But I thought Utah actually did a good job of keeping Jokic off of the offensive glass. And it was another reason that, again, we talk about when you go big versus small, you need to win every battle. They're going to win every battle. They're going to win the 3-point battle. They're going to win the spacing you out, make you run around. So you got to win the every big battle, and they didn't do it. The Nuggets did a good job in the second half, and really even in the second quarter, of adjusting how Jokic guarded Rudy Gay. So if you notice, you go back, I'll have this on the list. When they ran pick and rolls, Jokic would step out at the ball, but when the ball, so you run pick and pop, right, with Rudy Gay. But rather than have Jokic show and then recover to Rudy Gay on the pop, they would actually bring the weak side and Jokic would recover to Royce O'Neal. And then eventually they just had him guarding Royce O'Neal. And I think that was a nice adjustment. Denver did get better at that specific aspect of it. But like I said, the damage was done in that first quarter run. The rest of the game was played evenly. You blew it right there. And then lastly, the Jazz opened the third quarter on a huge run, 20-9. Denver calls a timeout, and they've done this a lot. I don't know if you've noticed it. They run out of a timeout. You're hemorrhaging lead. You went from down 1 to down 12 or whatever, and you call a Jokic 3-point play. I don't get it. Jokic is murdering this team inside, and the first play you call out of a timeout has Jokic 27 feet from the basket for a pick and pop jumper. That was mildly contested.
At what point in the game was that? Was that in the fourth?
That was the third quarter. That was during
third quarter. So that was before, I think, there was a camera shot of Jokic drawing up a play.
Oh, no.
That did you see that?
Later. Yeah, that play came way later.
Right. So when you were saying that, I'm like, yeah, I don't think Jokic is the one who drew up a 3 for himself. I think he drew up the play where he comes around for the post up.
He did, and this is what's funny about that is I'm guessing it was a response to that. Like
that's the first thing I thought. Yeah,
and I think he's like, screw this, we're not running another pick and pop out of a timeout. I'm not going to allow for that.
And they got a great look on that play that he drew up, I think, and he got fouled and they didn't call it. But it was a good play.
Real quickly, Kale, go ahead and bring up the All-Star voting. We'll get into this before we take our final break and welcome in the Serbians here to talk a little Serbian Christmas and a big surprise. But first, the voting, first ballots are in, the early ballots. This is like CNN. I'm calling it for Nikola Jokic. He's going
Stop the count, Adam. Stop the count.
He will be an all-star starter for the second year. But actually, here's what's interesting. Jokic is second among all front court players, only to LeBron James. And by a wide margin, by the way, look at Paul George way the hell down there. Are you at all surprised to see Jokic? I mean, he's got 3 times the votes as Anthony Davis, 3 times the votes as Karl Anthony Towns. Wow. He's got 8 times the votes of Rudy Gobert. Are you surprised at all by how popular our king has become?
I'm surprised he's this far ahead of Luka Doncic. I mean, Mark Cuban's got to hire some more people to work in the bowels of that Mavs arena and vote for Luka Doncic on like some supercomputers and stuff like he probably usually does. But because I feel like Luka's always, more near the top, but Jokic over him. I mean, it's right. That's probably the one that surprised me a little bit.
Well, here's the thing, though. I'm being serious now for a second. Jokic has the third most votes of anybody in the Western Conference behind LeBron James and Steph Curry, like two of the most, probably the two most famous basketball players of the last 10 years.
Right.
And he's now third behind those guys. To me, this tells me a lot. It tells me something important, that Jokic is actually a lot more popular than I think people realize, than he's given credit for. I complain, and I hate complaining about this stuff because I think it gets whiny. I think sometimes people hate Jokic, like fans hate him because there's like 5 people online that nonstop just spam Jokic propaganda. Like we all know who they are. The same people, like every time there's anything, what will happen? Like Karl Anthony Towns will make a 3-pointer as a game winner, and someone will quote tweet it with like, Karl Anthony Towns has 1 game winner in the last 8 years. Jokic has, and you're like, dude, that had nothing to do with this. Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4 guys that are that guy. But this tells me that Jokic is actually a lot more popular, and I think even beloved than most people realize, including the ESPN broadcast last night.
Definitely more than that broadcast. How different is this than last year's? Because he's obviously way more popular than he was last year. He won the MVP. I mean, the incident that got Jokic, honestly, the most clout and upped his Q score the most and his notoriety the most was when he clocked Markieff Morris. So he's definitely, a bigger star than he was at this point last year.
I think that might be it. Honest to God, there's a chance that Jokic got over the hump by clocking Markieff Morris.
Yeah, I mean, the Western Conference Finals run was great. The MVP was great, All-NBA first-team center. But that is the one incident that really put him on. That really put him to the front of the casual NBA fan.
Look at Joel Embiid way down there. 1.2
That's another
million.
one, yeah.
Wow, way down there. Look at Jason Tatum. My goodness, 50% of Jokic. That's insane. Actually, less than 50%. Some funny names that are on here. Obviously, there's always some funny ones. Anthony Davis has been nowhere near All-Star, but look, he's a Laker. But it says a lot to me that even he is 6. Like even Lakers fans, which make up half of all NBA fans, were like, nah, not this year. Not this year, bro.
Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony somehow, though, got the – like Carmelo Anthony – to Lakers fans think Carmelo is almost as good as Anthony Davis.
Carmelo Anthony is getting the Kyle Kuzma vote share from Lakers fans. Like everybody that voted for Kyle Kuzma in years past is just voting for Carmelo right now. Poor
Rudy Gobert. I mean, he's 200,000. Like he should be he honestly should probably be third on this ballot, but he's overtaken Jokic on the guy that everybody just like massively underrates. If we go down here to the guard spot, Russell Westbrook, 200,000. That's pretty wild. Like he's arguably the LVP of the season. Klay Thompson coming in 4th. I mean, the vibes have been great from him.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. And then Derrick Rose, of course, getting that token Derrick Rose vote. That was probably just Superstar Dev voting over and over again.
It definitely was.
Let's hit our last break. We got some Serbians waiting for us, and they don't like to wait. So we'll bring them on afterwards to talk about a Jokic interview and a couple other things.
Breckenridge Brewery is the official beer of DNVR. We've got seltzers in the bar. If you're local, stop into the DNVR bar, grab a Breck Brew seltzer. If you're not, you can pick up the Breck Brew seltzers at your local liquor store usually, sometimes your local grocery store. Breckenridge Brewery, they're doing a really cool thing with the National Parks Conservation Association this year. They're teaming up with them. The tragic fires in Colorado were absolutely devastating for so many last year. Breck is donating 1% of all their profits this summer to the National Parks Conservation Association. So if you buy 1 pint or a pack of Breck Brews, you're donating that 1% to a great cause. So yeah, check out the Breck Brew seltzers. If you're local, if you're in the area, stop in to the DNVR bar. Have a Breck Brew seltzer there as well. Also, guys, if you're looking to take out a mortgage, it's a super complicated process. It's stressful. It's intimidating. hit up the good folks at Chevalier Mortgage. Mike and Virginia Chevalier, they've been in the mortgage business forever. They know all the ins and outs, all the tricks of the trade. Visit them at dnvrmortgage.com. Get set up with a free consultation. Mike and Virginia, they're great people. They'll just give it to you straight. They're DNVR people. They're Denver people just like us. So hit them up. dnvrmortgage.com. Mike and Virginia Chevalier. Michael Chevalier, NMLS number 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS number 1910631.
All right. Before you bring them on, Kale, everybody, we are going to be joined here in a second by two homies. You guys absolutely know them. But before we do, Kale, do you have a drum roll on hand? No. Okay. Drum roll, please. Announcing this weekend, the part of the DNVR Nuggets podcast, Serbian Corner with
Wow.
Brand new show that we have on weekends. You guys know the DNVR Nuggets podcast 5 times a week. We're adding a 6th show, and it is going to be featuring our next 2 guests here, Serbian Corner, where they share some Serbian insights on the Denver Nuggets. Very excited for this. Serbians, welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you.
Excited. I wish we had more music and this or that, drum roll.
I need the anthem playing. I need the horns going right now. Like
we get our account shut down whenever we do it. Like we get it shut down, so we can't do it. But this will be a really cool project. Miroslav, you brought it to me. You guys have been talking about this. You want to explain sort of what your vision is for this brand new show?
Well, the idea is to bring a new kind of perspective on the season while it's already ongoing, and you already had a bunch of Serbian corners before, and just like when D-Line started his standalone show online with D-Line, this is an attempt to launch a standalone Serbian Corner show. So hopefully
this one lasts a little longer than online with D-Line.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, this is awesome, Voya. Like, what are you hoping to talk about throughout the show, and what are some of the things you feel like maybe we miss by virtue of us not being Serbian, other than Superstar Dev?
Yeah, well, the idea is, as Miroslav said, just a little bit of a different perspective, just based on us being raised in Europe and a different approach to like youth basketball and how we grew up with it, and just also just being forged in pain with like being struggling with sports sometimes, and then like rooting for bad teams. Like it's kind of, and then we us sticking to it with it, like that's kind of something we want to instill in Nuggets fans as well, that it's not just like good when it's good. Like there's also like silver linings, and you can enjoy things even when it doesn't look as good as as the bubble was. And then also just having some fun.
Is your mic and Wi-Fi going to be as shitty the entire series, or just now?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's now. I hear you guys great, but yeah, is it really bad?
It's all right. It's fine. Just a little staticky. I'm excited.
I'll get it.
I'm excited for this, though. I mean, there is a lot of things that come up where we have to reach out to one or both of you guys, as well as your partners over at the Nugget Serbia podcast, and just say, hey, guys, help me out. Like, what is the perspective on this? What's going on? And so I'm looking forward to learning. It's obviously will be in English language. It's going to be part of the DNVR Nuggets podcast. This won't be a Serbian show. So it'll be an English-speaking show for all Nuggets fans, and I'm really excited about it. To start with some of the Serbian insight, Miroslav, so you said you had a take here on Jokic and why he's so popular all of a sudden. He went from nobody knows him to all of a sudden he's like the 5th most popular player in the NBA.
Yeah, I have no idea what is the percentage of the votes that come from Twitter and that come from the NBA app and the NBA.com site. But if you go to the NBA app or the NBA.com site and start putting your votes in and select Western frontcourt players, there you will have LeBron James as the scorer number 1 and Nikola Jokic as the scorer number 2. So a very casual fan will recognize, oh, this guy, I think he was an MVP last year, so maybe I should give him a vote. So this might be one of the reasons why we have such a strong uptick in the votes, although it was pretty similar last year. Last year he was also 2nd or 3rd scorer at the All-Star voting period. So that might contribute as well. But I'm
yeah,
sure,
I believe he has 200,000 more votes this year than last year. So it's around like the same ranking. He just has slightly more votes this year.
I think honestly, winning MVP, it's funny because the conversation to me is so annoying. We're already doing the exact conversation we had last year, but it shows you why people are so defensive over it. It's because it actually does mean something. Like if you're the runner up, you remember Jokic was the third most getter. Was he third or fourth? Like 3 years ago, it didn't give him a Q score bump at all. Like it doesn't matter if you're almost the MVP, but if you actually win it, you do get this little like fans are like, oh yeah, that guy's the MVP. Yeah, he's the MVP of the league. That's all you need to know about it. And I think of it the way I think of other leagues like baseball or football. I have no idea who was the second MVP or third MVP, but if a guy wins an MVP, I'm like, oh, I've heard of that guy. Yeah, he's good. He's an MVP. So I do think it makes a huge difference.
I think Miroslav's onto something here because when you do go to just the voting page on NBA.com, Jokic is the second name list.
Yeah,
there you go.
This is why Will Barton is the worst player in the universe, because he's always like the fourth scorer on the Nuggets. So it must be that he is a bad player. That's how the casual.
Well, he's been pretty bad, man. It's tough. Like Will Barton, I can barely defend him anymore because he has just been really, really bad for like 20 games, maybe more, and it's really hurting the Nuggets right now.
I was loud defending him at the beginning of the season, and now it's hard. It's really hard.
Hopefully,
he take back a lot of stuff.
Seasons are so long, and I feel like you're great players. Part of what makes Jokic special is he's great all the time. I mean, he's had like 2 or 3 bad games this year, and it's felt weird. But he's good all the time. Anybody less than like the top 5 or 6 players in the NBA, they actually aren't good that often. They're like good 50% of the time, this or that. And unfortunately, Barton's like well below that threshold right now. But I want to talk. One of the reasons I want to have you guys on, obviously, to announce the show, but there was a really interesting interview the other day. By the way, Miroslav, you were a minor celebrity for a moment there as the English translator of this interview. How did you enjoy your spot in your chance in the spotlight?
Well, it happened accidentally because I was watching the interview, and 40 minutes in, I was like, "Shit, man, this is really good. This is some golden quotes." So I just started tweeting live, and then I went back to the beginning of the show. So my tweets were kind of messed up, chronologically speaking. But yeah, it really saw a lot of spotlight on the Twitter, especially from the Los Angeles Clippers fans, because there was one quote about why the Clippers couldn't finish the series after leading 3-1 in the bubble against the Nuggets, where Nikola Jokic just said, well, they didn't try to adapt in any way into guarding me or guarding us. And the guys just took that quote away and just took their Doc Rivers voodoo dolls out of their tables, and that just started harping on Doc Rivers again. So it was cool. It was really nice. But a lot of other.
It's very true, wasn't it?
Also very true.
Well, let me ask you this one to start. What was this interview? What was the purpose? Who was doing it? And why did it happen now?
Yeah, it was the interview for the Serbian sport network called Arena Sport. Edin Avdic and Nenad Kostić-Kole are the long years are the play-by-play guys for the Arena Sport, and they got the world exclusive, the New Year's Eve interview with Nikola Jokic. It was actually broadcast on December 31st, and these interviews in his native language are very rare, and those are the interviews he only feels comfortable in speaking in. Yeah. So we managed to learn a lot from them. It was really brightening. The quote I mentioned about Doc Rivers, he didn't try to harp on the guy, but he just wanted to give away the honest answer. And this is not something he usually does in English, because he's always afraid he will be misinterpreted. And when he's speaking in Serbian, he thinks, who cares? Nobody will hear this unless that crazy Miroslav guy translates everything. But yeah.
It is true, though. Like, you've talked to me about this before, the difference between Jokic, because my impression of Jokic as a media personality, he loves the really goofy, like, physical comedy, right? Like, he loves the microphone. Like, he's really good at that. He loves that. But when it comes to actually articulating, I don't find him to be very poignant. Like he
No.
often like aims really, really low. But you've said when he speaks in Serbian, and even translating some of your articles you've shared or translating this thing, he speaks in like metaphors and he like paints a picture. He has some like really interesting phrases and sayings that he textures into what he's talking about. What did he have one in there that you translated that was, the world gives you two boxes. One is happiness and one is sadness. And when you unwrap them, they both say the same thing. This will pass. Like, it's such a funny little saying that you're like, wow, I would never imagine him saying this in English.
Yeah, he's from the northern Serbia, and the life is very slow over there. So there is enough time for you to become a poet. So yeah, I can see that. I can see him, sitting on a comfortable chair next to the Danube River or next to the canal that's passing next to Sombor, and just thinking nice things. So yeah, I love that as well. It's really interesting, and he is funny as hell. He is funny. He's so funny. He had so many one-liners down there that I didn't even translate because it doesn't make any sense. It's too much things. But it was a really nice interview, and he did a really good job of giving the audience much more than what the journalist asked him for.
Right.
Yeah, what's interesting with him with the media stuff is a lot of those good interviews come with people. With his thing is always like personability. Like he knows Eden Avdic for a while. Like he knows a lot of these like basketball guys from Serbia. One of the guys I know is my neighbor. He wrote a book and he had inclusive interviews with Jokic and all these other Serbian NBA.
Oh no, Voya, you might have totally cut out whatever you hit. We lost you, Voya. Serbian internet has taken you. We'll circle back to that here in a second if you get it solved out, get it figured out. What else was there from that interview? Was there anything you didn't translate that you feel like is a little anecdote for us, Miroslav?
Well, that's a good question. Let me look at my notes. I think I have something that I haven't translated. Not sure about it. One thing I want to speak about thoroughly is the fact that he feels that he was always a good defender, but the problem was the language barrier he has with English. And for many years, he says that he didn't have good communication with his teammates on defensive end. And as soon as that improved, of course, next to his conditioning and some stuff he learned on the way, he became this much better defender. And I have to say, at one point last night during the broadcast against Utah, the guys from the ESPN who were broadcasting were like, "Oh, you see that? He already has a second block shot. He's not such a bad defender. Somebody should pay attention to him." And there are like so many analysts screaming, "Nikola is a good defender." But yeah,
Can I tell you something, Harrison? Do you remember this? I asked Michael Malone this one time. Like, this was like 5 years back. I said, "Is it more difficult, do you think, for Jokic being the captain of the defense because he can't speak the language?" And Malone made fun of me. He didn't just say no. He got mad at me and like belittled me, saying like, "How hard is it to say help or show or this or that?" And I was like, I don't know. I think it's kind of hard in a different language. Like, it just have to take another layer of thought. And he like ridiculed it. I'm like, I'm so glad that this came out. And years later, no one will remember it, but I'm vindicated for my question.
Yeah,
you're wrong. I hope you're watching, Malone.
Good on you. Oh, he's watching.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure
he saw who is on the show.
Yeah, he saw Miroslav was here. What else? You want to try it out again, Voya? Nah, you're just SOL, buddy. Your mic just not working again. So, all right. Well, we look forward to seeing you in your first episode this weekend. Miroslav, is there anything else that you want to share, just to kind of talk about, anything recent from this game or from the interview that you want to share?
One last thing from the interview I want to share with you. I think Nikola's main motive for doing this interview is to show how much he cares about the national team of Serbia.
Really?
Because at one point he mentioned that the highlight of his career was the silver medal on the Olympics 6 years ago,
right.
and how cool that experience was for him, and that this achievement of his is equally important to him as the MVP trophy he has in Denver. So when he put that letter to the press last summer that he is sorry that he cannot join the national team for the Olympics, I think he was really sincere, and he really wanted to put an emphasis on that. He also said that the biggest takeaway from that Olympics was the Serbian water polo team, one of the most dominant teams in team sports teams ever, that just like won everything in 10 years. He said he loved their camaraderie because these guys were just hanging out all the time. They're each other best friends, and it's easier like that in a small sport like water polo, because there's like, I don't know, 100 top level players in the world, and then after that there's a big drop off. So sure, there are things that help that kind of chemistry over there, but I think he is excited about future showing in the national team for sure.
We're running a little long, but there's two topics I want to throw at you here, and the first one is, and I'll throw it to Harrison first. I just want to get your take, but Jokic gave us as good of an assurance that he values Denver and wants to stay in Denver the other day when he's talked about Dirk Nowitzki and how much he idolizes him. And I know we've talked about this a little bit here, but on a scale of 1 to 10, Harrison, what's your level of confidence in Joker being a Nugget past next season when his contract is up?
Oh, 20. Past next season?
Well, yeah, past next season.
I mean, he's going to sign the Supermax this coming summer. I have zero worry about that. I thought you were going to ask me for the rest of his career, but yeah, I'm 100% confident he'll be with the Nuggets for a long, long time. The thing he said about Dirk, I mean, that was just the third instance I can remember over the last several years where he's really hinted that he wants to stay in Denver for his entire career. He told Tim Connolly back in 2019 that he can be the Tim Duncan of the Nuggets. Oh, he goes, no, that'd be pretty cool. And Tim was probably like, yeah, that would be pretty cool. And then just last season, he said, like, if I was to win a championship, I would definitely want to win it, with the Nuggets in Denver. And he kind of hinted that, it wouldn't mean the same if he necessarily won it somewhere else. So this was just another, I don't even want to call it a hint, because he's pretty much coming out and saying it, that, he wants to stay in Denver for his entire career.
Every time he gets mad or frustrated, I'm just like, oh God, but you're right. Why worry about these things? I'll say Miroslav has been the second most confident person all along that Jokic will spend his career in Denver, or at least his next contract. The only person more confident than you is your co-host, Milan, who DMs me, I'll say, like, maybe once a month, just to be like, I told you he's staying in Denver. So why are you so confident, Miroslav?
Well, I have a cynical view of the thing, because I know Nikola goes where Miško tells him to go, and since Miško is not involved in anything other than the basketball money, he will be sure that Nikola gets that Supermax. And the only way Nikola doesn't sign a second Supermax with the Denver Nuggets would be if he would retire in 6 years. Hopefully, he will not do that. And I think we can confidently say we will have another 10 years of Nikola Jokic in Denver.
This is a cool note from
10.
So,
wow,
man, 10. I don't know if we'll get 10 years, man. I don't know if we'll get 10. I'm not going to worry about 8 years from now until that. How old will I be? I'll be mid 40s by that point. I'm not going to worry about it. Mislav says that Jokic also shouts out former Yugoslavian players, not just Serbians, which I think is cool. That is a neat thing, and
right.
I always love it. The last thing I'm going to ask you: the Nuggets are 500, but tomorrow is Serbian Christmas. We failed on Jokmas. We failed on regular Christmas, but Serbian Christmas is our last hope for, like, boom, line of demarcation. Here's where the season turned around. Do you expect anything special from Jokic tomorrow on this holiday?
You mean more special than last night? Here's the thing. Somebody at the very beginning of the show, somebody asked if I was excited or not excited about the season as it goes right now. And I have to say, I'm really excited about the season because I have no idea what the Nuggets are right now.
Yeah.
If I would ask you guys, how many guys played all 5 last games for the Nuggets, what would your guess be? How many guys
of the last 5 games?
All of our last 5 games.
Man,
Jokic.
Yeah, there's Jokic for sure.
Austin
Facu.
Rivers. Facu.
Yeah, I'm not gonna torture you. It's 6 guys.
Wow.
And the 6 guys are Rivers, who is a 3rd string shooting guard.
Who's been
Damon
injured?
Reed, who is a 10-day guy. Campazzo, who is a 3rd string point guard. J. Mike, who is a very unsuccessful backup 5. Barton, who cannot play defense anymore, and his royal groundness, Nikola Jokic. So it's really hard to analyze what they are right now, and God knows what they will be in the next month and a half. But there is still that hope that when Jamal comes, they are not like 5 games under 500, and they can still make it up. And I really hope to see the 3-6 matchup between the Jazz and the Nuggets, because if Denver has like 2 competent guards in that matchup, everything will look much different. I mean, we had Monte Morris for this game, but he was on the minutes limit and off the bench. But if you have both Jamal and Monte over there and other guys backing them up, then you can speak about something really serious against Utah. And I think Denver would actually play better if Rudy Gobert played last night.
I love that.
Utah is a team that really knows how to play without Gobert, and Denver has no idea how to play without Jokic.
Oh, that's true.
Because they are used to playing like 18, 19 minutes without Gobert every night. They know what they're doing. Of course, their offense is so good, so strong. They can, just keep afloat by scoring a lot during those minutes, even if they're getting destroyed on defense. But I think that Rudy Gay is a worse matchup for Jokic than Rudy Gobert.
Man, I hate that take. I hate it. Like, I do think, look, there is something to Denver's familiarity level. You get in a playoff series and you throw Rudy Gay at the 5. I'm sorry, Jokic is going to score 50 points every game. They're going to game plan for it. They're going to be better prepared, better execution, and that would be barbecue chicken. Absolutely. They put Boyan on him. Remember when he put up 47? Yeah, that would be the exact same thing. Jokic would put up an effortless 47 every single time against Rudy Gay. Just last night, I showed the tape. I showed the clips. That's what happened last night. But we got to run, guys. We went really long today. Miroslav, I'm excited for you and for Boya. Excited for this venture. So you guys, 5 DNVR Nugget shows a week. Not enough. We're adding a 6th one. Serbian Corner. It should be different. Should be unique. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Saturday at noon. Mark it down.
Saturday at noon, Denver time. Harrison, you got any final thoughts?
I've got to respectfully disagree with Miroslav. I don't want to see the Jazz in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't really care for it. But there's nobody I want to see in the playoffs. I gotta see this Nuggets team look good for more than 2 games before I get there. Thanks, everybody. Hit that like button on the way out. Don't forget, subscribe. This is a podcast, not just a live show. We love doing this live with you guys. See in the comments. But if you ever miss one, you can listen to it in the car, the shower, wherever you are. See everybody next time. The list later today. DNVR members only.